Welcome to the Winning Edge podcast again with myself, John, and Rick. We're going to be doing the episodes because I've got no fucking idea. So, first things first, boxing. What do you think of AJ at the weekend? Did you watch it?
Yeah, watched it. So many variables. And he won. He won by knockout, and he won by a clean knockout. Was it an amazing performance? No. But then a late opponent, a late change, an adaptation of styles, a new trainer. It's loads to throw into that mix. I personally, and who gives a shit about my opinion, right? But I would probably see if I could have at least one more fight before attempting to take on the big two. Let's say, Wilder Fury. That would be my personal thing. But I don't know. What about you?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think for me, the simplicity of it, change your opponent. But, someone he should have probably been banging out a lot quicker. I think, Wilder knocks him out in one, and AJ took, 7, 8? You kind of I don't see AJ doing very well against Wilder. I don't think mentally he's quite there. And I think it showed early in the fight a little bit. I wouldn't say a lack of confidence, but he was maybe in some ways a bit overconfident. Then it wasn't quite going as easily as he thought it was going to go. And I think the amount of overthinking he's going to do coming up against someone like Wilder, I just think he'll probably fucking freeze a bit. And Wilder can hit. There's one thing Wilder's going to do is catch him.
Very hard, yeah.
So, it's not like AJ's had to do an awful lot of getting in close to his opponents. And I don't see where he has that skill. He's usually the bigger guy, right? He's not going to be the bigger, longer guy against Wilder. So we'll see. Assuming it even happens, but
yeah, of course. Weren't you in the same gym as Wilder recently?
Yeah. He trains. He comes in a little bit boxing gym where I've been training in Miami. So yeah, not as big as you'd think. Tall and long arms.
Is that because you're massive though, John?
Well, that's what I thought. I figured, I had to get out the ring to give him a little bit of space so he could warm up. But no, he's not as thick set as he kind of looks on TV. He's long, but very lean. You can see where, seeing him up close, where the weight difference with him and Fury would have made quite a difference once Wilder couldn't kind of finish him. But yeah, he's got that power. And I think against someone like AJ, who's also kind of known to be fairly athletic, but AJ just seems slow to me. I think Wilder's actually a bit quicker, but we'll see. We'll see. I just hope something fucking off, because the heavyweight division could be interesting if they'd all fucking fight each other.
Yeah, if they just get on with it, and make loads of money, and whoever wins, and maybe throw a rematch clause in or whatever. But do you think AJ's caught between styles at the minute? A bit of an identity crisis.
Yeah, I mean, he's had, what's he on now? His third trainer in the last 3 fights or so. And I don't think that ever bodes well, because you're not getting any consistency, which comes to your point. You're probably right. Like, he should probably try and get another fight or two with maybe lesser known opponents, just so that he can gel with his coach and, get whatever his style is down before he goes in against a Wilder or a Fury or somebody. But I don't know whether they'll do that. I mean, money talks, and at the end of the day, AJ's been around a while. He's not old, but at the same time, these fights need to happen pretty soon. Otherwise, I don't think they're happening, because I don't think Fury's going to hang around much longer. He keeps fucking everybody around, and he'll do this Ngannou fight for the money. But even that is a distraction, taken away from bigger fights in the division that could happen. So we'll see.
He's not fought for 18 months now, has he? So
no. And I mean, I think Fury doesn't need to be active with his style, really. I don't think that bothers Fury. I mean, look, he was out 4 years. I mean, he was younger, but then when he came back and pretty much, I thought he got the win on points against Wilder first time round, apart from the knockdowns that I guess changed it. So I think for him, out of all of them, he's one mentally who can take a bit of time out and be fine. And he's got Ngannou next, which, they're not a boxer at the end of the day. I don't see that going well for Ngannou, other than a bit of awkwardness early on. And does Fury play the game a bit? Which I wouldn't against Ngannou if I was him. But, does he play the game a bit and try and carry it a few rounds for the fans, which, playing with fire with someone who can hit that fucking hard, but
Yeah,
not
yeah.
like McGregor and Mayweather. But I don't know. We'll see.
Risky business. But do we even dare touch on McGregor in the
He's
ring
done.
at the weekend?
I think he's done. I don't. I mean, it's supposed to be pretty much signed against Chandler in December now, but you've only got to look at him. I mean, he's aged so much.
Yeah,
And look, fair play to him. He's been partying. He's selling his alcohol. He's doing everything he's doing. It's like, look, he's made a ton of fucking money. But even though Chandler might not be the best in the division, he's healthy. He lives the life. He's clean as
yeah,
fuck. He's athletic. He's not going to get tired. And I think unless Conor can catch him early, which is now going to be the thing with McGregor. If he doesn't catch people early, he's going to struggle. As soon as he starts gassing, which is going to be quicker and quicker, now he's older
yeah,
and less trained, you saw it. You can see his face. I think the thing with McGregor, as good as he's been, the last couple of times against Puya, you saw his face change. The minute he got hit, the minute he started to look tired, there was just a look on his face like, why am I here? I don't want to be here.
yeah.
And he'll never admit it. Coaches will probably never admit it, but you can see it. Like you watch enough fights, you can see when someone's face goes, "I'm done. This is
Yeah.
not going to go much further." And what's he been out now? Another couple of years with the broken leg and his lifestyle. I don't think he'll win another fight. Even if he
That
does
was
fight, I don't think he's winning any.
that was very eloquently put. All that, John. That was very politically correct as well.
Well, I get asked this one a lot about McGregor, so I just, I don't like talking bad.
We're obviously on record here, aren't we? And
Yeah, yeah.
all views are our own and all that kind of stuff. What's that legal statement we've got to say? But yeah, I mean, yeah, very eloquently put. Our time catches up with us all, doesn't it? And like you say, lifestyle. Let's say
That lifestyle,
so,
yeah. You put a picture of him now and 3 or 4 years ago side by side, just facially, you're like, fuck me, that guy's aged.
Yeah.
And look, like I say, with his lifestyle and money, who can blame him? I don't, it's not that. It's just, look, no fighter gets away with what he's been doing. They just don't. The game moves on so fast. These guys are young, athletic, hungry, want it. It's what he was 5 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
He's walking into that, and he's just gonna get beat. So,
Mm-hmm.
but it'll be exciting, and everyone will tune in, and we'll all get excited, and we'll hope he can turn the back.
Yeah.
We've seen it a million times, right? I was
Yeah,
watching
yeah.
documentary on Tyson the other day, and again, every time I grew up with Tyson, right? Forget how fucking good he was for those couple of years before everything started to snowball and go wrong. Like they showed, I think he had almost fighting once a month at one point. Before he won the title, like 12 fights in a year. Just fucking the speed and the ferocity and the fucking like that Tyson for a couple of years, like crazy.
So we all, and I think that sort of lends us in what you've just said there. It lends us in well to what we're going to touch on today, which is training and training philosophy in particular. Your training philosophies, because you've mentioned their lifestyle and age and people peaking and all that kind of stuff. And am I allowed to mention the birthday? Am I allowed? Can we go there or not? Yeah.
Yeah, well, I'm not going to be talking about training, as it pertains to when I was fucking 25 anymore. So
yeah. So you've just had your birthday recently, yeah, and got a big birthday coming up next year, and we'll leave that there. But you still, I mean, we've known each other over 20 years now, and you were absolutely bang at it with the training from the day I met you, and you still absolutely bang at it right now. Anyone who follows you on social media at John Bond Coaching, they'll see that you are literally, training every single day, putting videos up, you're in great shape. I mean, when did you actually start training? And tell us a bit about. We have touched on this a little bit in terms of career, but I'm really interested in you and your personal training.
Yeah, training. I was asked this question a while ago, and I think I did it on a story or something, and I was kind of tongue in cheek and joking about not actually being able to remember. partly due to my age, but partly like I actually sort of can't remember like this was the first thing I did that I would call training. I remember going to my first gym, but I remember prior to that, just even as a kid, like I mean, you remember this, growing up in our area, everything was active, So
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I used to, I'd turn anything into a workout. Running up and down in the fucking garden. We had I remember gashing my fucking shin, almost taking my leg off, doing like plyos on this brick wall, which I thought was fucking smart. I had these, fucking old school. Remember the fucking bull worker thing?
Yeah.
I'd be playing around with that. I had one of those, some dumbbells. I'd do anything to try and exhaust myself a little bit. I must have had a lot of energy back then, and that's kind of, I guess watching I guess Stallone movies and fucking Arnie movies and just that kind of physique and that kind of that's what I wanted as a kid. So everything was running around, and then like most kids, school started playing football. I did everything you could fucking do when it came to athletics and sports day. Fuck it, I spent more time running around doing different events in sports day than actually doing any good at them. I was that tired from the previous ones. I'll do everything. Fuck it, I was throwing javelins around at one point. And then the actual gym itself started with um, my dad took us to, it was like an really old school. It wasn't even a hell. It was like you remember these, like, because downstairs was like a pool hall type place. And then there'd be all these old school rooms, and there'd be like karate, judo, fucking
Yeah.
all sorts
Yeah.
of different things. Can't remember what they're called. There's a name for it. Um,
No,
so
I
it
mean
kind of
my
took
my
us.
first my first one was a youth club, but I know exactly what you
Yeah,
mean, but can't think.
yeah.
Sorry, go
So
on,
and
carry on.
then the dads would drop people off. They'd go downstairs, fucking smoke, drink, and fucking play snooker or whatever, while you'd be in some class. Anyway, I tried. I think I tried judo and I didn't fucking like it. I tried karate. I didn't really like that. And upstairs there was a gym. It was a bodybuilding gym and a boxing gym combined. So very old school. Um, the guy that ran it was quite well known in the town. So I just started going up there. My brother would stay in the karate class, and I'd be like, "Fuck it, I'm going. I like doing my own thing." So
Mm.
I'd go up. I didn't know what I was doing. I'd hit the bag, and then I'd lift some weights, and I was just making my own shit up, to be honest. At that point, just training. And then the actual start of going to what I would guess really kind of getting into learning a little bit about training was my dad passed away this was when I was like 10. Um, and my next door neighbor had a gym in his shed. So he started inviting me to train with him and his mates. So I'd go and we'd just fucking train in there. And then he took me to my first, I guess what I would say, gym where I stayed training there for a while, which was Harriside. Gym, they were only open old school 3 days a week. Like Monday, Wednesday, Friday was men. Tuesday, Thursday, Saturday was women. It was split. Ton of fucking banter. Like I learned everything I needed to learn really about gym culture and environment from that place. From like
Mm-hmm.
11 onwards, I was going there quite a lot.
What was it
Boxing,
like? Like, did you pay on the door? Did you like a quid or 2 quid or something
something
like
like that. I
that?
mean, I think it was like you paid your subs, like even back in there, call it subs. I think it was like £3 a week. So
Yeah.
pound a workout. Pay on a Monday, that's you for the week.
Yeah.
So met a lot of good people there. The boxing thing started with the YMCA. So that was a friend of mine at school. His family were big into boxing. His dad, they were contractors and whatnot. His dad was a boxer. My mate and his younger brother, we were the same age as me and my brother. So we all kind of hung out, lived fairly close. So we started boxing again. Me and my brother went. My mate and his brother were going, so we'd go and train there quite a lot. My brother didn't really stick at it; he wasn't really into that sort of thing. And then I really liked it, so it was kind of again, almost what I do now, really. But boxing and lifting, that's all I did.
Mm-hmm.
Especially when I got towards sort of around, I would say 14, I was starting to take a lot of it really seriously because I wasn't really going to school. So the excitement of sports day had worn off. I wasn't interested in. I did PE, but I wasn't really going to school that much. All I wanted to do was fucking train.
Yep.
So I'd go to school here and there, but me and my mates would fuck off for the afternoon, or we just didn't stay in school. So I didn't really do anything when it came to school. I think the only qualification I left with was some sort of PE. Played a bit of football and things like that. But again, I was very much into the individual type sports. I like boxing, I like lifting, I like things I could go and do on my own. Didn't have to rely on other people. So whilst I hung out with friends and whatnot, and definitely did a lot of socializing and getting into trouble as a kid, I liked not having to rely on other people when it came to my training, and that kind of stuck with me. I've always liked sports I can do on my own, not necessarily having to get involved in team sports. So that was like the background and how my training kind of started, and then I carried on training well into my sort of teens around whatever job I could get. I left school, I got a job as a mechanic. I was driving a forklift truck around at one point, basically just manual labor type jobs, because I didn't really know that jobs existed in the fitness industry. Like the only gyms I went to were, backstreet one-man band type gyms. So you looked at that lifestyle, and I knew exactly how those guys were running their gym. They didn't make that much money from their gym. They made money from whatever else they were up to. As well, right? So, to me, looking at that from the outside, I didn't see fitness as a job.
Yeah.
Until I did, until finally, things started to evolve a bit in the fitness industry. And, sadly, at the time, in some ways, some of the old, timer bodybuilding gyms started to shut down a little bit because health clubs started to open. And when health clubs started to open, not so much in Blackpool, but, personal training, gym instructor jobs, things like that were starting to become available. And that's when I realized, okay, maybe there's a career in this, because I didn't enjoy what I was doing as a job. I just worked because I left school at 15 and needed to earn money. It was always the mentality, leave school, get a job. That's what you do. Doesn't really matter what the job is. You just have to earn money. And then, so then when gym jobs started to kind of become a thing, that's when I got into the industry, as a fitness instructor, talked about that sort of stuff. So that's my sort of, I guess, initiation into the gym and training. And I guess looking back, it was always a form of mental escapism, and still is, because whilst I've evolved my knowledge and evolved, my training to a certain degree, I think that my mentality behind it hasn't changed much. When I was a kid, it was about everything was a challenge. How many of these can I do? How many of those can I do? And I've had to try and change that a lot, because obviously, I started doing this shit when I was a kid, and I'm now nearly 50. So obviously my body's worn down. I've got injuries. Things don't fucking work the way they're supposed to. But my brain needs that fuel.
So when you were younger, then, what was your training philosophy? Was it about building muscle? Was it about training hard? What was the philosophy behind it, and where did you get your influence from, and things like that? You mentioned the guys in the gym. Was there any big names? No disrespect to the guys in the gym, or did you just do it all off your own sort of bat, watching
Most
and
of it,
learning?
I mean, it was very much, the 80s, right? The action hero. So I kind of, like yourself, grew up watching Rocky, Rambo, Predator, all this sort of shit. So, and then, looking into Schwarzenegger's history in the bodybuilding, I was very torn on, and probably where I never really ended up getting any good at either, because I was kind of torn on. I wanted to look like a bodybuilder. I had all the magazines. Like, I go to my mum's sometimes now, and there's fucking stacks of muscle and fitness. Like, my mum's a hoarder; she doesn't throw anything away.
Mum's never thrown them out. No.
It's quite funny because when I'm bored at my mum's, I'll start looking at them and I'm reading shit from the 80s, and I'm like, fuck me, shit's not really changed that much.
Yep.
We try and make it sound more educated, but it's not changed as much as we think. So I was very much from a looks point of view, I love the bodybuilding side of things. I wanted to be massive. And then obviously I love the boxing side of things. I put a bag up, hung on my tree in the back garden at one point. Like, I would make anything into a workout if I could. So I'd go to the gym, the weights gym, 3 times a week. And the guy that owned that gym kind of taught me the basics about bodybuilding and how to lift. They had old school full body, 3 workouts up on the wall. He'd show you how to
Yeah.
do all the exercises. And then you'd follow those. And then after a while, I've been training quite a while. Some days I'd jump in with their group. So he had a group. They'd be like him and 2 or 3 of the guys. They'd all meet at around 4 o'clock. And that's when the gym got fun. Like around that 4 o'clock time, like the guys had finished work, they'd all come in and they'd be wearing Docker boots, jeans, fucking check shirts. Like none of them looked athletic. Like there wasn't a Nike t-shirt amongst any of them, right? So then sometimes I'd get invited to lift with them. So they'd be like, "Oh, what are you doing?" So it'd be like, and again they did full body. They start with squats. Not much deadlifting back in the day, interestingly enough. It was always squats, legs into bench and upper body. So I jump in with those guys, and that kind of taught me the basics of training hard and simple. And like I said, the boxing was the thing on the side of that. So at the same time as I was trying to do that and look like a bodybuilder and get strong, I'd be up stupid o'clock in the morning running because I thought running was the way to get fit, which it was. I'd do the sand dunes, and then I'd box Tuesday, Thursday night at the YMCA. So, I kind of went a bit all in on both, but never all in on one. I didn't like bodybuilding as a sport. Never have. You're not seeing me jump on fucking stage. I love boxing.
You've never been on that. You've never been on stage.
No, I love the training. I love the lifestyle. But yeah, as far as like jumping on the stage, and I don't see that as a sport. It's fucking beauty pageant. Some bodybuilders won't like that.
Here he is. Here he goes. That's what I was looking. That's what I was looking for with Conor McGregor before. But there we go. We're there. We're warming up nicely now. You know what I mean? So
this one's a little easier. It's not personal.
Maybe a little bit. So you train whole body 3 times a week then, yeah?
Back then, yeah.
And how's that evolved then through you? If we stay with your training splits, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
How's that? Because you then mentioned no deadlifting. I mean, now you've said it. Yeah, you obviously have, been in gyms before I have, and been probably arguably a lot more, certainly bodybuilding type gyms than I'd never seen anyone. Now you've said it, I'd never seen anyone deadlift. So how did things evolve for you then with training through your 20s, 30s, 40s, and how does training look for you now? Because from what I've seen, you train your balls off still. So what does it look like now?
Well, I mean, like throughout, everything evolved once I got into the industry. In some ways, with my own training. So, like a lot of coaches, I went down the path of trying almost every different training style under the sun for a few years. So I came from a very bodybuilding type background, and you remember even when I came to LA Fitness, I still had that simple training philosophy and style with my clients, where I train my clients a little bit like bodybuilders. We do, depends on how many times a week I train them, but it wouldn't always be full body. It'd be certain muscle groups. So I moved more into a split as I got older, but I also started trying and getting into whoever was learning off, looking at some Paul Chek stuff, and then like you said, the functional stuff, which I fucking hate and never really understood.
That's on my question list. We'll come back to that in a minute.
Come back to that one. And then there was there was the how to sort of sell yourself as a trainer. So everyone was going down the route of postural analysis and trying to fucking fix people and And I tried all of these things, and a lot of it I was a bit resistant to, but I tried it. And then I tried the CrossFit route and fucking just putting circuits together and all this sort of stuff. And a lot of it was aimed at, what's going to sell in some ways best as a personal trainer, what's going to hook clients in, what do they kind of want to do, how do they want to feel like they've been trained. But all along, that was never really my own training philosophy. So it kind of came full circle. And even back now, it's like, okay, in the gym, I still do a lot of things more like bodybuilding style training, slower tempo, more control, trying to really, facilitate and feel the muscle fibers actually doing the work. I did get more into strength. I think when I was younger and I was doing the bodybuilding and I was combining that with boxing because I was doing so much training. I did get stronger, but I wasn't bothered about numbers. That
Yeah.
came a little later when I really started to focus on, okay, I want to be able to squat this much, deadlift this much, bench this much. And I
Yeah.
got more into like a powerlifting base.
Yeah.
And I got really into that, and I still do a lot of that now. So like a powerlifting base with a hypertrophy bodybuilding type accompaniment to those lifts. So, I'll start my workout with a big lift, and then my accessory work's going to be more bodybuilding. So I might bench, work up to a heavy single or a couple of heavy singles or whatever, like a powerlifter might. And then I'm like, okay, incline dumbbells, machine press, cable press, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
assistance work. So that's kind of where my own lifting's gone. I've got very into biomechanics, the best position to put your body in to move the most load, because I've always believed that like load is king.
Yeah.
Um, and being able to push the muscles to some sort of failure, which I still like to do, even if it's just 1 or 2 sets, is how the body's going to grow. There's a lot of debate on a lot of that, and I'm not saying we should kill it to failure every single session, but I think if we're not pushing our muscles, and creating some sort of progressive overload, then the biggest thing I see, especially in the industry, is a lot of trainers getting clients they can to lose a lot of weight, get lean, but they don't build any muscle.
Yep.
There's a missing link there, and I think it's not training clients hard enough, or at least teaching them to understand what hard training looks like. Hard training doesn't have to look like someone throwing weights that are too big for them
Yeah.
around the gym, bouncing things around and, not having good technique and then forcing to that kind of failure. It's about the working muscle being pushed to failure
Mm-hmm.
and how you can do that in a controlled manner. I think that's missing in the industry a little bit. So
So it's relative to you then, yeah? It's relative to
yeah,
where you're at and where your level is and everything.
yeah, absolutely. So, my training philosophy in some ways went full circle and then back to basics.
Mm-hmm.
And then now I really, I only look to kind of educate myself on how can we do those basics better.
Mm-hmm.
Is there better ways to do the basic movements, lifts, and get more out of those things from a positional point of view, from the type of equipment we maybe use? But again, that's an individual thing. The best piece of equipment for one person isn't the best piece of equipment for another. So making it individualized so that the client themselves can get the most out of it. I do the same now for me because of injuries. So some things, hurt my shoulder or hurt my bicep, and I don't use that apparatus anymore.
Yeah.
I'll use something where I can get the stimulus I want. So instead of getting hung up on, you've got to do barbell bench because I love it. Well, if that's fucking up my shoulder and
Yeah.
there's a machine press that's more comfortable, I'm still going to push and try and get the same stimulus out of that machine, but there's less
Yeah.
pain because it's in a more stable position. So that's where my lifting's kind of gone. And I do that a lot with clients, and it's also a lot of how I teach my coaches and trainers.
Mm-hmm.
Keep things very simple,
Mm-hmm.
but design the program around the person in front of you and what's going to get them the most out of it. And really, my education philosophy is all around the principles, not the
Mm-hmm.
best exercise, not the
Yeah.
best rep range, not the best this, because there isn't one. That's an individual thing. But the
Yeah.
principles, just like in sport, are kind of the principles there. If you're not following the principles, it doesn't matter what exercise you pick. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what rep range you do and all that sort of stuff.
Makes sense.
And then I still love all the conditioning stuff. So again, I'm still, 30, 40 years later, in some ways a little confused with my end outcome. Like, I like to be fit. I do a lot of jiu-jitsu, as you know, I do a lot of boxing. And one thing, as much as I love, looking quite big and jacked, I don't like getting tired.
Mm-hmm.
And big muscle tires you out and makes you gas. So, I fight that a lot with cardio. So I recently bought a watt bike. I've got that at home. I get on the bike and do some sort of steady state cardio at home. And again, that's a lot around health and heart health and stuff like that, which I believe is really important. A lot of
Mm-hmm.
people for years went off on the direction, you don't need cardio.
Yep.
I'm pretty sure the heart needs training in a specific way as well. So I'm not one of those advocates of you don't need to do cardio. I think you should do some sort of cardio. And then I still just try and keep or maintain some sort of balance of, I don't want to say explosiveness. I'm certainly not explosive anymore. But, plyometrics, body weight exercises, conditioning type work that
Yeah.
keeps me feeling fit when I'm on the mat or when I'm doing some boxing, my movement feels semi-okay. I know when I'm not doing enough of that because I just feel heavy and tired
Yeah.
and everything's fucking hard work. I can outstrength most people
Yeah.
in either of those sports, whether it's jiu-jitsu or boxing, but it doesn't matter when you gas out. You know, I talk a lot about that nowadays. So trying to keep some sort of gas tank at my age is crucial. And it's probably the hardest thing I find. Like I get so fucking tired and I get so annoyed when I'm gassing out because I'm just like, I feel like I've almost got to explain because everyone I train with is like 20 years younger than me. And part of you just wants to be like, you wouldn't have been able to live with me 20 years ago. Now I'm like, fucking tired gassing. So that part's tough. And I think that's why I find letting go of training hard and the psychology behind training hard and the not wanting to lose what I've built and done in a lifetime of training. You know, it becomes more about not losing it than what I'm gaining. I'm not getting any stronger. I have my moment where I'm like, oh wow, that was a decent squat. I'm not really getting any fitter. Again, I have my moments. If I'm doing more conditioning work, I feel fitter. But I'm certainly not beating 25-year-old John in the gym. You know, my skills might be better, but I'm not outworking that person anymore. So yeah, I think a lot of my training is still clinging on to the old psychology I've always had, clinging on to the fact that I kind of need to exhaust myself. And that's not good, really. I'm aware that that's not actually a good thing. It tires me out and sometimes wrecks me for the rest of the day if I'm not careful because I don't have the energy to recover like I used to. But training, and it's always been a big psychological thing for me. It's as much mental as it is physical. Obviously, I like to look a certain way. But if I don't train, you know, you don't want to be around me if I don't get to get my workout in. Like, whether I'm on holiday, it doesn't matter where I am. I've got to get it in, and I function better if I've done something. For me, it's just about slowing. Been talking about this a lot recently, and it's just trying to slow things down a little bit, and letting go of like. I'm pretty sure that I hold a lot of my value, I guess, as a coach, as a trainer, as someone in this industry, based on how I look, based on how I train, based on those sort of things. And sooner or later, you've got to let that go. I'm sure there's a bit more to me than those things.
You're never gonna let that go, mate.
No,
Listen,
but that's it.
I've got about 10 things there that I want to ask you. So just hold on, just hold it there for us, will you? Because this is the typical of you. Because this is your life, isn't it? Training. And
I could go on.
I've picked up about 10 things that I want to ask you there. So I need to know. Strength is pointless without conditioning. Conditioning is pointless without strength. Is that fair? Are you? Does that marry in with?
Well, it really depends on the goal. But I mean, look, if your sport, let's say, is as a powerlifter or as a strongman or whatever, then obviously you're going to be 80-90% of your training has to be dictated around sport and maybe 10% around some sort of conditioning to be able to facilitate that over a period of time. So, but for me, yes, I think for general public, I think yes, you want to exercise, train. People want to look a certain way, but we need to stay fit and conditioned. And I think being able to do that as well is good psychologically. And from an athletic and a sport background, it really just depends on the sport. So when I'm designing anything based around an athlete or for sport, it'll just come to the percentage of usage of each. But definitely, as you've worked with a lot of fighters in the fight game, I don't really care how strong you are. If that strength's only going to last 30 seconds to a minute, then you better finish the fight, because if you don't, you're in a fucking shit ton of trouble from someone who, can't even lift half the weight that you might lift in the gym. It's irrelevant. So I like to try and get a good balance of each. And then also, if it is an athlete, look at the natural abilities and skills set of that athlete. And also maybe look at the game plan, because you can't necessarily make someone who's got super fast twitch, explosive power. You're not going to make them into an endurance athlete. You can give them more endurance, just like you're not going to make an endurance athlete into a super powerful fast twitch, person. There's those both ends of the spectrum. Ideally, you want your athlete to meet somewhere in the middle, and I think a lot of the best athletes in the world tend to meet somewhere in the middle. But if you've got people on either side of the spectrum, then you can only give them so much of the other, and then the rest might be, can I put a game plan together for that athlete that says, right, we've tested as explosive as a wrestler as you are, you've got about 4 takedowns around, and then you're going to start gassing. So,
what about, because I'm going off on one here now because you've come to the fighting, which was on my thing. So, what about weights will make you slow?
No, I mean, look, I think people forget that in most fight sports, weight categories are there for a reason. So I don't see how strength training slows you down. I think if you're slow, right?
Yeah.
And strength training won't necessarily help you speed up. You have to do specific speed type training. And I think, again, some of this comes down to improving on what you're blessed with. Some people are very explosive and very fast in nature. They have very fast twitch muscle fibers and they are quick. Some people are slower and more endurance, and you can train in a way that gives you a bit more of one or the other, but a lot of it's kind of natural. And then when you train that person, what starts to happen? So, I don't think weights makes you slow. I think sometimes it's a residual effect of the weights that makes you appear slower. So when I first met you guys, I think I was like, 80 something kilos. I always looked quite big, but I was light I've always been lighter than what people think I am. So I use kilos. I've got into fucking pounds over here a lot, but I think I was like 80 to 85 half the time, right? Well, when I started focusing more on just lifting and getting stronger and putting weight on, I got to 95 kilos at one point. So I put 10 kilos on. Hell of a lot stronger, but I'm not going to maintain these. We're going to be very hard to maintain the speed of someone at 85 versus 95. So my weight slowed me down. Maybe the bulkier muscles, maybe the stuff, but it's not just that.
It's not as binary as that, is it? It's not as simple as that.
Exactly. And you see it, like, look, I've been training with this guy here, and he's, most of my coaches that I have with boxing things are usually smaller than me. But even with the difference between training with Chris in LA, who's a lot lighter than me, but quite big.
Chris, just in case people don't know, who's Chris who you train with?
Chris Van Heerden fought Conor Ben recently, a few years ago actually now, but ex-world champion. And he's smaller than me, but he's the same height, but he's good at going at my pace. And the guy that I'm with at the minute is a lot smaller. And we're doing footwork stuff and footwork drills that I'm just fucking not designed for. He makes it look easy.
How's standing on a tire going for you, mate?
All right, fucking kills. And and again, but that talking about even conditioning, like people get conditioning mixed up and wrong. Like, what does conditioning even mean? And it's being able to fucking put the small things through their paces that are gonna give up. Fucking horrendous. But this guy's great with his footwork, but he's fucking tiny. He's a small guy, super fast, and you're like, and so, but he's designed that way, and he fights that way, and he's fucking 30 years old or whatever. And he's like, we're doing footwork drills, and I'm like a fucking elephant trying to do, I'm trying to move around like a fucking lightweight, and I'm a heavyweight, right? So, I think when it comes to weight training making you slow, it's not that. I think sometimes it's the residual effects. Fighters go up in weight, and then they appear slower than they were at their lighter weights. And people who have been up at that weight through their whole career and are quick at that weight, then all of a sudden appear quicker.
Yep.
But if you brought that person down in weight to match the other fighter 3-4 years ago when they were that weight, the speed would seem very different. So, no, long-winded fucking answer. I don't think strength training slows you down at all. I think it's the residual effect of strength training. And if you're not doing the right things when it comes to speed development, explosiveness, and all the other things that go into making you quick, then you're going to slow down. But I don't think you're slowing down because of the weights. You're slowing down because you're not doing the other things, and you're gaining weight, which is then harder to move. If you gain, 5 kilos, it's harder to move. Put a weight vest on and move around and tell me you're just as fast. Your muscles haven't changed, but you've added 5 kilos to your body weight, and you're going to be slower, right? So, That's my take on it.
I've got a list of stuff. I'm just going to throw a few more
Yeah,
things at you, if that's okay, and just almost quick fire at you, because I
yeah,
want I want to know your thoughts on a number of things. It's stuff you've just touched on there, and so I'm going to come to obviously the money shot in a bit, but I'm glad you mentioned your own training before, because I think people have got an insight to this now because you've been posting cardio and stuff, but you've always done cardio, haven't you?
yeah,
For a
yeah,
big guy, you've always done cardio. You've always kept yourself flexible and done core, haven't you, and yoga and all kinds of
yeah.
different stuff like that as well. So that's part of your philosophy, isn't it? Keeping your body supple and keeping it moving.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think it's, in any endeavor, right? Like, look, if you're going to be very specific, as I've said, you need to be specific in that sport. But if your training is based around health and movement and longevity, like I like to be able to train somebody who maybe doesn't have a specialist area they want to do. But if all of a sudden that person came to me and went, I want to be able to do a 10K run in a few months, I've just signed up for it. I wouldn't want my client to be that far away from it. Yeah, I wouldn't, or all of a sudden, I'm going to do this powerlifting thing. There's like a novice powerlifting thing. I'm going to do it in a couple of months. Do you think I'll be ready? I'm like, yeah, we lift heavy anyway. So my philosophy with most people is to get you, old school, actually what strength and conditioning actually means. A lot of people, call themselves S&C coaches, and they're not. They're a strength coach. And
Yeah,
they don't really understand conditioning and fitness and all the other things and everything that goes
yeah,
into that. Conditioning is a massive field. Strength is one component, and it's in some ways, the most simple component. Conditioning someone to be able to then do events and compete or be an athlete is a whole other ball game. And then making sure they're not getting injured and all these other things. So for me, I take that strength and conditioning philosophy into my training style in a way that, I don't want to be a million miles away from someone saying, hey, do you want to do this fucking climb or this event or this run or whatever? And I want to be able to go, yeah, okay.
yeah.
How long we got? A couple of months?
And
Okay. I'll do a bit more.
I've seen you do that. Literally, just enter a run or whatever, and a
Yeah.
few weeks training, and you're good to go, aren't you?
Yeah. And I'm not going to be breaking any records, don't get me wrong, but it's not this, I'm going to have to put 6 months of specific training into that thing because I might not enjoy it enough. I don't want to all of a sudden become a marathon runner, but someone says, let's do a half marathon. I'm like, okay, give me 6 weeks. Give me 6 weeks of running, I'll be fine.
Yeah.
And
What's
that's
your
my philosophy on that.
What's your thoughts on training when you've got an injury? I know you're a black belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, in case people don't know. You've done loads of bodybuilding, as you've talked about, loads of boxing. You're a black belt in BJJ. You've had some injuries. You've had some pretty decent injuries as well, haven't you? What do you do when you've been injured? What's your thoughts on that?
So, there's definitely a do as I say, not as I do component to this a little bit. Like pain should be your number one indicator, right? So first of all, work out or do your best to understand why you're getting the pain. If it's quite severe, my first process now with everyone is go and get it scanned. Go and find out exactly what the problem is because it's going to be really hard to heal. If a few weeks rest doesn't do it on that body part, then you're going to struggle to heal it if you don't really know what the problem is. What exercises should I be doing? So my first process is always to find exercises and movements that don't hurt, whilst whatever was hurting hopefully subsides and heals, depending on whether it's just a torn muscle, torn ligament, tendons, whatever that might be. It depends how severe it is. I think finding smart ways of positioning yourself, getting the joint in a stable position to still move some load so you can keep strength in that area is crucial, as long as you can do it without pain. Like I said, pain should be number one indicator. If it's hurting, don't do it. But don't just not train.
Right, you've just answered my question. Thank you. So you had your arm in a sling not long ago, didn't you? I can't remember. Was that your bicep?
Years ago, I had shoulder surgery.
Yeah,
I had shoulder surgery a few years ago.
Yeah. What were you doing?
Well, I mean, again, for me, it's straight away. I mean, I jumped on, I did a picture of me in a sling and on a fucking bike, not even 24 hours later. But again, it's my philosophy straight away was right. I've just been under local anesthetic. I want to get that shit out of my body. So
Yep.
that was number one. That was the reason I did some cardio. I was like, right, get on, sweat this crap out of my system, because if you've ever been put under and had surgery, you feel like shit for a few days after, until you get that crap out of your system. And then, for me, training psychological, there's always something you can do. So I could have my arm in a sling for 6 weeks or whatever it took. I can train my legs.
Yeah.
I can get on a certain piece of equipment. I can train the other arm if I want. There's different studies that have been done that suggest, and I don't really agree with them, but if you stimulate one side, there's a residual mental stimulus to the injured side. So I don't want to create another imbalance by over smashing the other side. I won't do that, but I'll go in and train my legs, maybe do 3 or 4 exercises with the good arm and don't move the other arm. Just do my rehab on the other shoulder until it starts to get strong enough to start to, get both sides going again. But I think, exercise for me is such a psychological thing that I still need to have that feeling each day that I've done some sort of exercise or training, whether that's cardio because I can't lift, or whether it's doing muscle groups that, like I've got a shoulder, my shoulder's fucked again now. I do, this last few weeks I've done mostly back, hamstrings, legs, arms. I'm not doing any pressing at the moment. And rightly or wrongly, I'm punching the shit out of pads and bags. So I don't know whether that's doing my shoulder any good, but it doesn't hurt as much doing that. So, so yeah, I don't believe in stopping training completely. When people go, "Oh, I'm injured, so I'm not going to train," I'm like, "Well, you've only injured this. Continue to exercise, and maybe it's an opportunity to work, weaker areas that maybe you don't work so much." When I had my sling class, I was training legs nearly every day. Jiu-jitsu would be a really good example of that, right? And it's not, we should definitely stay off the mat a bit more. I mean, everyone that does jiu-jitsu knows that everybody's broken, but if I go in and I know there's positions I can't do, usually when you're injured, like anything, it takes away what you're good at. So I'll be like, right, okay, I'm going to lie on my back and I'm just going to work escapes. I'm going to work whatever I can. I'm not going to use this side. I'm not going to use it. I'm going to find ways of doing it. And I think that's really good from a problem solving point of view, because, that transition to kind of almost life mentality of, what are you going to do? I mean, look, God forbid someone attacks you, right? But you've got an injury. Someone goes at you in the street or whatever, or tries to mug you or something. You're like, "Oh no, I can't. I'm injured." Or you're gonna fucking deal with it. It might be a life or death situation. My arm could be falling off. But if I've trained like that, and if I've been on the mat and I'm like, okay, I know what I can't do, but I know what I fucking can do. I know where I need to be to make sure I can either protect myself or do some damage if I need to. Is a crucial mental state, I think, to have. I think training around something and continuing to be able to progress even while something or some part of your body's in a bad state is a really good psychological tool, just as in life.
So you don't stop training. That's the first thing. And you find a way to train, and there's always something you can do, and you use it as, I love that, you use it as an opportunity to develop other areas of weakness.
Absolutely.
Or areas of development.
If that's the only thing I can train, then I'm going to train that until it fucking falls off.
I love that. Love that. Couple more. What do you do, if anything, for recovery? That's my next question to you.
Sleep, mostly. Power nap. To be honest, that's my biggest failure. I don't do enough specific stuff when it comes to recovery. I think sports massage would be the one thing that I think is very good. Because I think there's a lot of different studies on what we class as recovery and whether it really works. Everyone's into the ice bath stuff now. I think that's good psychologically. Whether that really does a lot of the things it says it does from a recovery, physical recovery point of view, I'm not too sure. I'm not sold on all the evidence for or against. I do like doing them, although it nearly gives me a fucking heart attack. Red light therapy, red light saunas, I think are very good. I like the Normatec. We have the Normatec leggings and back and arms. For those of you that don't know, it's like a compression suit that you put on and you stick it on for like 30 minutes. And again, science on some of that stuff can be sketchy, but what it does force you to do is once you're stuck in that, you're lying there for 30 minutes not moving. So
doing
anything that
nothing.
allows your body to just, and mind to a certain degree, to just sit still can be good. Obviously, nutrition is crucial. Hydration is crucial. So top priority should always be your nutrition and your hydration, and then the tools that you need to relax the actual muscle groups you've maybe overworked. But, and this is where sometimes we fall down a little bit as coaches, is if your nutrition's on point, your hydration and your sleep and all these other things are on point, good programming is probably just as crucial as recovery things. Like if you're relying purely on recovery tools to recover, there's probably something wrong in your programming and the amount and the way you're training those things that they're not getting to recover. And then you should be taking a look at that. A top level coach will know, okay, if we've just smashed these muscle groups, what do we now need to do? When should we hit those again? How does this fit into your sport? How does this fit into other things? So for me, a lot of the recovery things you can do are extra, and they're kind of sticking a plaster on a problem that's going to happen further down the line if your programming and just general rest and recovery schedule from your training is not correct in the first place. All you're doing is adding things in to try and counterbalance. I don't like the term overtraining unless you're an athlete, because I think most people don't overtrain. But if you're in that state, you're not going to get yourself out of that state by doing a few ice baths and saunas and things like that. They will make you feel better short term, but the problem underneath is still there because the programming is not right. The rest, your sleep, your nutrition, and those things are maybe not right.
Yeah, makes absolute sense. I'm going for it. Functional training.
I fucking love this question. I mean, every time I answer it a little differently, but my argument to functional training is like, what is functional? What's not functional? Is anything not functional? Functional in its fucking term is, why are you doing it?
Yeah.
Right? Why are you fucking doing it? So when people go, oh, bicep curls are not functional. Well, if you're a bodybuilder, they are, because you're going to be judged on how big your fucking biceps are and what shape they are and all that other shit. So, yeah, functional was that thing that fucking, I don't know, it seemed to come in years ago. Like people still say it. There's another term, and I don't know if it came from Poliquin or whatever, but like functional bodybuilding.
Yeah, functional bodybuilding, yeah.
Like, what the fuck does that mean?
Just bodybuilding with good technique, is that then? Or what's that?
Well, I think it was like, bodybuilding doesn't get you strong, so we're going to do functional bodybuilding whereby the strength can be used for other everyday life things. And I remember that terminology. We train you so you can do things in everyday life as you get older. It's like, well, shouldn't you be able to do that shit anyway? Like, what's the point in being strong if, you can't reach up to the top shelf and grab a tin of fucking beans or something? It's like, well, I could stand on a fucking step ladder or something. Like, I don't need to fucking stretch Armstrong myself and do fucking yoga.
No jokes at me there. You know what I mean? There's no deadlift. There's no deadlift going to allow me to reach the top shelf, is there? So,
but I remember this bullshit in the industry of like, I'm training you for everyday life occurrences. Well, what the fuck happens in everyday life that you need to be able to fucking deadlift 500 pounds or squat this or do this? A stronger, fitter, more athletic human being is by and large going to be more useful. Yeah. Should you ever need to use it, right? I think one of the best analogies I ever heard, and I never really thought about this, was, if you had to carry someone out of a burning building, run into the street, pick someone up because they've fallen over, maybe there's a car coming, they're going to run over you. Are you able-bodied enough to potentially do that? Does your exercise and your training help you do that? Because if you had to stand back and watch someone potentially get really fucking hurt or die because of your lack of giving a shit about your own body and how it works, and like I say, it doesn't mean we have to be breaking records in the gym. But we should be strong enough and fit enough to maybe be able to do that should we be called upon, right? And I think society's changed so much. You know, if you go back to our parents and our grandparents' era and you think about world wars and shit like that, like everybody was enlisted. You had to go, you know, when World War One and Two, you have a fucking choice, right? And people were fit enough back then to go off and fight a fucking war. Well, can you imagine that nowadays with kids that are overweight and just sit on the fucking computer games? All of a sudden, you're like, we've got to rely on you lot to fucking potentially save the planet. So that, when it comes to functional, I fucking hate the term functional. I think all training exercise is functional for its purpose and its goal. You know, if you need to run across a fucking desert, then you'd better be able to run X amount of miles. And whilst no one needs to be able to run that far, look at people that do ultra marathons, 100-mile fucking runs. No one needs to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But if you want to do that as a sport, then you better train that to that length. But should you be able to run a mile if need be?
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, should you be able to lift this off that person within reason? You know, I'm not saying you have to fucking lift a car off somebody.
Yeah.
But are you strong enough to at least fucking help in a life or death situation?
Yeah.
Can
and
you?
And that could be someone you love, right? So
Yeah,
because a lot of people in society now would just,
you know, I sat there at the airport. It was in New York not that long ago, and I was sat at the airport, and I get fucked off at airports with overweight people anyway, because I just think you should pay double for your seat, because whilst I take up a bit of room, admittedly so, on my seat, it's like if I've got someone sat next to me who's taking up almost both seats because they're obese, it's just like, you know, and, you know, not to mention you start getting onto the healthcare system and all this sort of shit that they take up. But, you know, this woman's there and, you know, she's sat there. She's massively obese. Typical kind of almost, I guess, America. She's got, it's 10 a.m. This was the worst bit. I wanted to film it because I was going to put it on my stories. And I was like, don't, John, you're going to cause too much hassle. You know, she's got a pizza, 10 a.m., a bottle of Coke, some pastries that she'd bought from somewhere. So not just a pizza, some pastries, and then something else on top of that. I can't remember what the third thing was, but it was all shit fatty food.
Oh, shit, yeah.
I'm like, do you not care about yourself at all? And I know there's deeper psychological issues and all this sort of stuff goes on with some stuff, but you just like, I get it. Maybe you've got problems, but would you not want to fucking be better and do a bit better than that? I can, you know, I've never understood how people really get obese, at what point they didn't think to maybe do something about it. But you know, I've worked
why has it got so bad? Why is it, how's it ended up this bad?
Yeah, I'm not a horrible person to this. Look, it's my industry. We help overweight.
Of course. Of course.
Great when they finally flick a switch. But yeah, I just think sometimes these things happen with people and they just don't think about the bigger picture. And, you know, you see it a lot with dads, you know, all of a sudden they've let themselves go and then they have a kid. Yeah. I have so many people come in, you know, dads and go, I need to get fit. I want to be able to play with my kid in 10 years' time. I've just had a baby and he's going to want to play sport and shit. I'm 40 odd years old. I've let myself go. So, you know, whatever the motivation is, I'm all good with it. But I think getting into people's heads that we should be thinking about this stuff anyway, and thinking about how bad would you feel. And look, hopefully it doesn't happen to anybody, but if you was in a situation where your lack of physical ability, because you let it go, not because you've got a disability, not because you've got a problem, that's very different, but because you let it go, you couldn't potentially help save someone's life. You'd have to stand back and watch someone else do it. What a shit position that must be in, you know. I'll run into a fucking burning building to save someone. Because I know athletically I can fucking handle it. I might inhale a load of smoke fumes and die, but I'm not going to be like, oh, fuck, what if I can't pick the person up? I'll pick you up.
I totally get it and I love it. It's not going to be climbing the stairs that's going to burn your legs out, is it? Or, you know, putting them on your shoulder or whatever.
Yeah, and I want to be in that position. I want to be the person that can help if need be. Now, I've never really been in many of those situations, but I know that if I was, I'll be the first in there helping.
You'd be all right. I love that, and I love that principle. I think if more of us adopted that principle, like you say, would be a healthier world. That's a big statement, right? But it's fucking true. It's absolutely true, and it's that deep, without going too deep on that today, but that's that deeper thing that it's not just about you as well. There's a deeper reason for that, whether it's
Yeah, exactly.
family, kids, whatever. Mate, I've got one last question.
Yep.
Because we're kind of out of time now, I think. But you've been in the industry now for 30 odd years. You're an OG. You're an OG in this industry now. That's not like old something. This is
Yeah.
you're a gangster in this industry. There's no question about that in my mind. You've trained longer. You've trained, by the sounds of it, pretty much all your life. You're definitely a shining example. My son did his first ever weight training session with you when you were over from the States. I would not let my son train with anybody, and there was nobody better in my view in this country, in the UK, and arguably there's not many in the world to teach my son. That's where you sit in the industry. What advice have you got for that young kid, the next young John Bond, who's wanting to maybe train, looking at role models, looking to get started? What tips, what little bit of advice can you give that young lad or girl or whoever to start their training journey?
Well, I think number one is start. If it's something that you're into, whether it's lifting weights, whether it's playing a sport, get into it. Try and get yourself in a good environment. So, for me, and I'm sure you the same, like, being on certain teams, having certain coaches that support you and understand you and are willing to teach you is also crucial. Be quick. If possible, it's hard when you're young, but be quick to realize if you're not in an environment that's helping you grow and isn't supportive. That can be quite common. You hear a lot of the opposite stories to mine, where I've spent my whole life putting myself in the environment I want to put myself in. I talk about it a lot. I've been to nearly every top level gym and even fight based gyms around the world on purpose to go and sample the coaching and be around the right kind of people in order to learn and grow. Have that want to be around the best people, and be aware that you're going to be at the bottom of that pack quite a lot every time you take a step up, but be patient and be willing to learn. And the one thing about training, especially if it comes to like weightlifting, even sport, is there's a huge part of delayed gratification that isn't part of our world anymore. A lot of the times, right? If we take it into our careers and all these other things, social media, everybody wants to be it now and yesterday. And a lot of people, if you're not careful, will take steps to cheat the system or do things in a way that is probably not going to be healthy for you long term in order to get more instant gratification, the look at me, look at how good I am type thing. I think there's I would still say, if I look at back to my day, and I'm sure you were the same, like a lot of stuff went on in some ways, not literal, well, actually sometimes literally, but not literally underground, but just submerge yourself in it without feeling like you need to post everything on social media, without feeling like you need to tell everybody. Just go in and lay the groundwork. Learn whatever craft it is you're wanting to learn when it comes to training. Get good at it. And then start to decide where you maybe want to take it, whether that be into the professional arena, professional sport training, whether you want to do it as a career or whatever. But use it as a mental and a psychological tool to help better you as an individual. And for me, training has always given me that focus. It's the one thing every single day that I am 100%, well, not 100%, but I'm pretty focused on what my goal is within that session for that day. And I can take those lessons into other things, because I know when I'm not focused, things are a shit show. Whether it's my training, whether it's work, whether it's whatever. If I go into something without the focus to get on with it, I open my laptop and the next thing I'm fucking about on YouTube and looking at all sorts of shit. I'm not really getting my work done. So, that would be, I guess, my advice is, recap in a nutshell, get started, pick something you want to do. If you don't like it, change. Don't give up on sport and exercise just because you don't like the first thing you try. I tried a few different types of fight sports and I hated them. I like the freedom of boxing. So I tried different ones until I found something that stuck. Same thing with weightlifting. You don't have to be a bodybuilder. You know, you might like CrossFit, you might like circuit style training, you might like cardio, you might like try them. Find something that sticks, that makes you feel good, and then run with it. And then, you know, if you want to take it even further, study it, learn it, you know, get to understand it. Because I think that breeds more and more motivation. The more you understand about something and why it works and why it makes you feel good and feel better, the more motivated you tend to be to stick at it. Once you've created the habit, hopefully that sticks with you the rest of your life. You don't have to be like me, you know, fucking train yourself into the ground, but exercise and staying healthy is, you know, in my opinion, will make you a more productive human being in general, whatever you take your life into, whatever job you choose to do, family, you know, however your life goes, you're going to be more productive if you're fit, healthy, and you exercise than if you're, you know, unhealthy and your body's, you know, your brain's worrying about other things because you're in pain or you're overweight or you're tired all the time. Like, you're never going to be productive if you're feeling like that, because those things become the forefront of your mind. So that'll be my advice.
That's a fact, isn't it? You know, that's a fact. There's been a number of truth bombs in there today, uncomfortable truth bombs for some people as well. You know, and I'd include a few stages of my life myself in that as well. But absolutely, I totally understand, totally get what you said, what you're saying, and what you've just said. I could listen to this all day. I'm sure.
Well, this is why we're trying to do it weekly, right? So we'll have plenty of episodes. We'll keep revisiting it.
I'm sure the listener could as well. But, you know, mate, thanks for sharing, you know, some of your thoughts and insights into training. It's hugely inspirational, for me, for everybody else listening as well. To wrap up, John actually opened with remembering the name of the podcast today. So we'll close with that. I've been Rick. This has been John sharing his training philosophies, which has been amazing to listen to. Unless you've got anything else to add, John.
No, all good.
This has been the Winning Edge podcast, and we will see you next time. See you later.
Thank you.